Welcome back to the deep dive, everybody. You know how we love uncovering those hidden gems, the characters you might not expect.
Absolutely.
Today, we're going deep, really deep into the world of one of those characters. A character with a, shall we say, memorable name.
This is going to be good.
We're talking about 8 Ball.
8 Ball.
Yeah, 8 Ball. He's one of those characters that makes you wonder, can a guy with a name like that be a serious threat? But as we dug into the source material, we found there's more to this guy than meets the eye.
Way more. It's actually surprising how much there is to unpack with 8 Ball. He really embodies this whole idea of wasted potential, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Like we're talking about a guy, Jeff Hagees, brilliant inventor, missile propulsion systems, that was his thing. The guy was brilliant. He could have been designing for SHIELD, hanging out with Stark, you name it.
Instead, he chose billiards.
Pretty much. It's like he took this sharp turn into, well, pool-themed villainy. I mean, talk about a niche.
Okay, so we have to get into this. We're talking genius-level intellect, someone who could probably build a rocket launcher in their sleep, and they go this route. What's the backstory? What happened?
Well, the sources paint a picture of a guy brought low by, well, a pretty common flaw: gambling. Hagees develops this addiction. It costs him his job, puts him in serious debt. And here's where the irony really kicks in.
Where's the irony?
Instead of turning his life around, he uses his knowledge of defense systems, all that genius, to become 8 Ball. Starts building this whole criminal empire, but with a very specific aesthetic, you could say.
So wait, instead of high-tech missiles, he's launching, what, explosive billiard balls?
You got it. It's wild, right?
I mean, it's kind of genius.
Yeah.
In a bizarre, slightly terrifying way.
Exactly. And that's what makes him so compelling. This constant push and pull, incredible intellect, but these really questionable choices. Makes you wonder, is he a true villain or just a guy who got dealt a bad hand? Literally and figuratively.
Like the nature versus nurture debate, but with a supervillain twist.
Right.
And speaking of villains, we can't skip over 8 Ball's run-ins with Sleepwalker.
Ah, yeah, Sleepwalker. Trippy stuff.
For anyone who hasn't encountered Sleepwalker in their comic book journeys yet, he's a hero, but he operates in the dream realm, like Freddy Krueger's worst nightmare, but heroic. So how does a pool-loving baddie even go up against someone who controls your dreams?
That's the thing. 8 Ball, he actually manages to hold his own against Sleepwalker. Consistently. Even without any superpowers, which is saying something.
Really?
It shows his resourcefulness, how he can think on his feet, strategize. Plus, he's got this knack for turning up in the weirdest places. Like villain hangouts, disguised as your average pool hall.
Hold on. Villain hangouts. Like, is this a support group? Is there a secret handshake? I need details.
Picture a dimly lit bar, but instead of beer ads, it's wanted posters.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm totally picturing this.
And it's in one of these fine establishments that he crosses paths with. Hobgoblin.
Hobgoblin. Okay, another one for our listeners, Rogue Gallery. We've got Hobgoblin, we've got 8 Ball. They're probably playing pool, making shady deals under the table.
Probably.
I gotta see, what brings these two together? They seem like an odd pair.
It all starts with a pool tournament organized by, you guessed it, 8 Ball. High stakes grand prize is a solid gold trophy. Now, Hobgoblin, he doesn't really need the money.
Right, he's not hurting.
What he wants is to use the tournament as a way to get to Sleepwalker. Eliminate the competition, so to speak.
Ah, the classic enemy of my enemy scenario.
Exactly.
So does 8 Ball get caught in the crossfire? Or does he hustle his way out of this one?
Well, without spoiling too much, let's just say things don't go quite as planned.
Oh, I bet they don't. Classic comic book twist.
A case of mistaken identity, a fake sleepwalker, and our villains find themselves in a very temporary truce. It's actually kind of funny. But it shows how 8 Ball, even with these elaborate schemes, can get tripped up by the unexpected. Reminds us that even a criminal mastermind with a thing for billiards can make mistakes.
And that's what makes it interesting. We're seeing beyond the name, beyond the pool cue.
Yeah.
So the real question is, what drives 8 Ball? Is this all just about paying off those gambling debts?
That's where it gets even more interesting. Yeah, his motivations, they get kind of complicated.
More complicated than just, I like billiards, I like blowing things up.
Right. It's easy to write him off as just another guy looking for a big score, but then you see these glimpses of something more. Like later on, there's this whole thing where he's pulling jobs to support his grandmother.
Wait a minute.
It's kind of sweet, actually.
He's out there robbing banks, building deaf lasers.
Yeah.
For grandma.
That's messed up.
I mean, it's still wrong, but
yeah, of course.
Shows you there's another side to this guy.
Exactly. He's not just this one-dimensional villain. He's got layers.
Layers like an onion.
Yeah, like a dangerous pool cue-wielding onion.
Okay. I've never heard anyone describe a supervillain like that, but I get it. So where does this morally ambiguous onion go next? What's the next chapter?
Well, things take a turn when he gets mixed up with Riccadonna.
Riccadonna.
Yeah.
Now she's trouble
Oh,
for
yeah?
heroes and villains.
Right. Riccadonna, she's got a knack for making enemies, and unfortunately for 8-Ball, he ends up on her bad side.
Yeah.
And, well, let's just say it doesn't end well for him.
Wait. Doesn't end well. As in, he's pushing up daisies 6 feet under.
Pretty much. Word on the street is Riccadonna hired Wrecker to take care of things.
The Wrecker.
And grenades are not exactly conducive to a long life.
That's rough. But come on, this is comics we're talking about. That can't be the last we see of 8-Ball.
You know how it is with comic book deaths? They rarely stick around, and 8-Ball is no exception.
Okay, good. Because I'm not ready to say goodbye to our billiard-themed buddy just yet.
He gets a second chance thanks to the Hood.
The Hood. Now we're talking. That's a name that sends chills down your spine. What does he want with our dearly departed pool shark?
The Hood's building his own empire, and,
Yeah.
well, he sees 8-Ball's skills as a valuable asset.
I bet he does.
But remember what we were saying about 8-Ball and loyalty?
Uh-oh.
He doesn't stay put for long, especially when a certain vigilante enters the picture.
Okay, now you got to give me a name. Who are we talking about?
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight.
Yeah, the guy with multiple personalities, a thing for crescent darts.
Talk about a clash of styles. How did these two even end up in the same room together?
So 8-Ball eventually breaks away from the Hood's crew,
Makes sense.
which puts him right in Moon Knight's crosshairs.
Right.
Moon Knight, at this point, he's running the Midnight Mission.
Oh, right. The
Oh.
sanctuary for people with supernatural problems. They were even cellmates for a while when all the superheroes were outlawed in New York, from resurrected villain to reluctant ally of Moon Knight.
Mm.
It seems like 8-Ball has a real knack for finding himself in these wild situations.
He always seems to be in the middle of something.
Speaking of wild, let's talk about 8-Ball's fighting style.
Mm-hmm.
We've mentioned the pool-themed weapons, but what are we talking about here? Is he all smoke and mirrors, or is there some substance behind the 8-Ball facade?
Here's the thing about 8-Ball. He's not superhuman.
Right.
No super strength, no energy blasts, no telekinetic control over billiard balls, unfortunately.
Oh, man.
He's basically a regular guy, except he's a genius inventor.
Right.
And he's really good at turning everyday objects into weapons.
So he's like the Batman of billiards. Relies on his brains and gadgets to outsmart everyone else.
You got it. He uses his creativity to level the playing field, turns his lack of powers into an advantage. And he's surprisingly athletic. Like, the guy's agile, a crack shot with that cue stick.
Okay, but let's get to the fun part. What kind of gadgets are we talking? Does he have, like, heat-seeking 8-Balls, explosive pool chalk, a cue stick that doubles as a laser pointer?
You're not far off. He's got his signature billiard ball bombs. They can be smoke bombs, explosives, fireworks, all disguised as billiard balls. And his cue stick, it packs an electric punch.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling he's got something even bigger up his sleeve.
When it comes to making an entrance, 8-Ball does not disappoint. He's got two vehicles that just scream, supervillain with a flair for the dramatic.
Okay, I'm listening.
First up, you've got the hover rack.
The hover rack.
It's a 4-person hovercraft shaped like, you guessed it, a pool rack.
I should guess that.
But then there's the pièce de résistance. Picture a gigantic hovering 8-Ball, armed to the teeth, ready for anything.
You're kidding.
I'm totally serious. It's called the floating 8-Ball, and it is every bit as awesome as it sounds.
Okay, you win? That's way cooler than a tricked-out minivan. We're talking about a flying billiard ball. How can you not love that?
Right? It's ridiculous, but also kind of intimidating, which really, when you think about it, is 8-Ball in a nutshell.
It really is. So we've got this brilliant but flawed inventor turned pool-themed criminal mastermind. He's got the gadgets, the vehicles, even a soft spot for his grandma. But there's one last thing we have to talk about, because it adds this whole other layer to his story. It might mean that 8-Ball's story is even bigger than we initially thought.
Yeah, we found some stuff about another 8-Ball in another universe.
Hold on, wait. Are we talking about a whole multiverse of 8-Balls? Is that a thing?
We don't have a ton of information about him, but it seems like this other 8-Ball, he's playing on a whole other level.
How so?
This 8-Ball, he's got ties to the Goblin Nation, the Sinister Six. We're talking about some serious players in the Marvel Universe.
The Sinister Six. That's Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery. Those guys are the major leaguers. Okay, so this other 8-Ball, he means business. It makes you wonder, is going bad? Is that just inevitable for someone like him? Is there an 8-Ball out there somewhere who actually went good? or is he always destined to be a villain?